Ahoy, everyone. This is David Eugene Perry, back in the Zoom room with interesting people from around the world, and in this case, from a galaxy far, far away. Welcome to the Zoom room, Gus Lopez of Rancho Obi-Wan, but also today talking about his amazing Star Wars collection, Bobacabana. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, David.
So I imagine Bobacabana has nothing to do with the Barry Manilow song and all to do with Boba Fett.
Well, it does plant the Barry Manilow song in people's heads, but yes, it obviously has to do with Boba Fett. So it was a fun pun on both of those terms.
Right. So behind you, I see just a part of your collection. How did you
Yeah,
start becoming fascinated with and such a major collector of the Star Wars universe? And tell me about Bobacabana.
yeah. I mean, like many collectors, I started. I grew up with Star Wars, so I had it as a kid. I collected things, but really as a young adult, I started to get into it more. And I started with the really heavy into the action figures and just trying to collect loose action figures. But I've done it over many years, and I was always curious about the next thing. I really wanted to learn about items that no one had, and so a lot of my collection really focused on trying to discover how were the toys made, how did they make things for the films, who are the artists behind Star Wars. So it was always this curiosity of just finding undiscovered things. So that's sort of been like, I guess, an overarching theme in my collection.
So what was your entry point into the galaxy of Star Wars? Your
Yeah,
first Star Wars experience?
Yeah, my first Star Wars experience was seeing the film in the summer of 1977. Which was incredible. I mean, as a kid growing up then, it was like, I think it's hard to describe this to people who weren't around then in that age group. It was films before and after Star Wars. It was this tectonic change in pop culture. And I think people just don't remember that like what films were like and just pop culture was like before and after Star Wars. But yeah, I was never even into that genre because it really created a new genre. And from the beginning, I was into the collectibles. I bought the trading cards. Those were the first things. There wasn't much available in 1977, so I bought the Topps trading cards. I got the comics. The Marvel was one of the early licensees, so I was buying the comics as they were coming out. Um, and then, a year later, they came out with toys, but I was buying pretty much everything Star Wars early on, and that was a time when it was feasible to do that because there wasn't that much out there.
So, remembering that first moment when Princess Leia's ship comes across the screen, and then seemingly the endless Star Destroyer coming after it, I remember that image as well. It gives me goosebumps. How quickly was it that you focused on, or maybe you didn't, on Boba Fett? I assume he's one of your favorite characters.
He is. I have several favorites. Boba Fett's one of my favorites, and obviously he's from The Empire Strikes Back when he was introduced, although also in the holiday special. But no, I mean, I even from the first film, there's so many great characters from Darth Vader, Han Solo, Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia. Uh, but yeah, I mean, they were just it was just so brilliantly done. I mean, they're classic, character types, but sort of set in a different way, and I think that's why it's really resonated with people over so many years. But yeah, for me, a lot of people have like their one favorite character. I have several. So it's hard for me to pick one, but yeah, I mean, I just as a kid, I think I really liked the character of Luke early on. I thought that was
Yeah.
just a great sort of heroic character, came out of nowhere kind of character. But as the films go on, there are many great characters that they've introduced.
So, what is the most, well, I'll ask this in two ways. What is your favorite item in your collection, and what is the most valuable? I guess maybe they're not the same thing.
Yeah, it's yeah the first one. They're both hard questions, surprisingly. So, uh, a lot of times my favorite item is like the last thing I've picked up. I have so many unique things, and when I'm hunting that becomes my favorite item, and then until the next thing. So, I have a lot of favorite items. I collect I have about half a dozen categories that I go very deep into. So I collect in toy prototypes. I collect artwork, movie props and costumes, uh, food items, particularly cereal boxes, and cast and
Oh,
crew items. There's a few categories I focus on. And so for each of those, I have like a favorite. Like, so for example, in cast and crew items, I really like the crew outfits they made for filming in Norway for The Empire Strikes Back, the blue parkas that they made for Empire Strikes Back. It was absolute favorite crew item they ever made. They were unbelievable. For toy prototypes, there's a lot of favorites. In fact, I'm in the room right now. I have a toy prototype room. It's just surrounded by things that Kenner made as they're designing the toys. And I have a few favorites, but I have actually, you can see it over my shoulder. This wooden sandcrawler sort of to the side.
yes.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite of the toy prototype pieces. It's basically when Kenner created the vehicles, they would mill it out of wood, and it's actually 2 times the scale of the Sandcrawler toy. It's just this thing sculpted out of wood for the Sandcrawler. So it's probably my favorite Kenner piece because this is just this beautiful sculpture out of wood. So in each category, I probably have a favorite like that. But most valuable, I would guess, is probably because of its significance, is probably the Death Star. So I have the original Death Star model from the first movie from Star Wars, the only one they made, the three-dimensional spherical model of the Death Star. And I mean, it's a fairly significant piece in Star Wars history. Uh, and so that one, there are no plans to, ever part with it. But, something like that would probably, in terms of value, would be pretty high.
Yeah,
So,
I have seen that actual artifact because 30 years ago now, hard to believe, I was the communications director at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts in San Francisco when they did the first ever Art of Star Wars exhibit. And there was that Death Star that is now in your possession.
well, that would be the Return of the Jedi Death Star. So the one that Lucas has is that's a bigger one. And I
Yeah.
saw that one at Yerba when I saw that was a beautiful model too. That was huge. And the Return of the Jedi Death Star, which they haven't shown after Art of Star Wars, I don't think they've ever shown that
Yeah,
publicly.
you're right. That one was the one that wasn't complete. It was the
Yes, that's right.
right,
That's right.
right, you're right.
I have the one from the first movie, which they basically had the studio had put in a storage unit and stopped paying for the rent on the storage unit, and they threw everything away. But one of the people who worked at the place saved the Death Star, and it's changed a couple hands in between. I ended up with it 25 years ago, but yeah, basically, but yeah, the Return of the Jedi Death Star is a beautiful model as well that Lucas will presumably have in his museum. It'll be exciting if he gets that out on display again.
Yeah, I just have to hold for a second that the Death Star was saved because someone said, okay, well, they didn't pay the rent on the storage unit, but I guess we should save the Death Star.
Yeah, I have so many stories of crazy things that just you would not, like, things that just barely survived because of things like that, coincidences, or somebody just thinking, oh, I should save that. I mean, it's wild, like how much stuff just almost got thrown away.
Yeah, all right. Well, so let's dive a little deeper, pardoning the
Yeah.
pun. Have you ever
Yeah.
dumpster dived for something that someone else threw away?
Uh, yes. I sort of openly admit that I have done some dumpster diving, and I have found some good stuff. I mean, oftentimes dumpster diving is a waste of time, and you do it and you don't find it. I haven't done it a lot, I would say. I've done it a few times, but it was at very, very targeted places where I knew it was a company that was throwing out a lot of stuff, and did find a lot of good stuff in the dumpster. I wouldn't say, though, I know people that have actually built great collections, actually routinely dumpster diving. I don't live in an area where there's that opportunity, but I have done it a couple times, and it successfully.
Great. Well, so no shame to the collector curator of Bobacabana.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on set for any part of the filming of any of the films or the TV series or anything like that?
Yes, I have. I was a couple times actually. So I was on set, although they weren't actively filming for Rogue One and and for Last Jedi. And then before that, I was on set while they were filming The Force Awakens. So I
Wow.
went, yeah, and it was unbelievable. I mean, I think it was about maybe 10 different sets. I saw them shoot a massive action scene. Um, I mean, we went through like the prop and costume department and the art department. Got to see all this. So I signed crazy amount of NDAs. Well, actually, it was an interesting experience because I was exposed to the film like a year and a half before it came out, and so it was this incredible burden in a way because I was like, there, I'm not even going to breathe a word of anything I saw or heard to anyone. I can't tell anyone about this, and obviously you want to talk about it, but like, there's no way I have to. Everything is so hyper confidential. So it was an odd thing as a fan to be exposed to that and say I can't say anything to this film's release. So anyway, but no, it was great. I mean, it was unbelievable seeing all this stuff. And then actually, my favorite part was we ate lunch with in the sort of the place where everybody was, they brought out all the food and all these characters in costume, and I'm just sort of absorbing it, like looking at all these because I didn't see some of those characters on the set, and so I was like, oh, what is that? What is that? Because I don't know the whole. I got to a sense of the whole story of Force Awakens while I was there, but I was like, wow, look at this, and just that was amazing. So that was an incredible experience to see the filming of one of the Star Wars movies. I mean, and then to see them do they did the battle scene at Maz Kanata's castle. That's what I
Yeah.
saw them filming, and with those explosions, and they had like a helicopter doing filming, and they had multiple cameras. I was like, oh wow, this was unbelievable to see that, to see that.
Well, that is an ultimate fan experience. Well, listen, in our last few moments, talk to me about what's going to happen in a little over a week. This incredible, I'm calling it the Star Wars Party of the Year, a fundraiser for Rancho Obi-Wan, a nonprofit, also a big collection that I know you're affiliated with, founded by Steve Sansweet. And it's taking place on Saturday, October 5th at really, I think, one of the coolest museums anywhere in the country. I've been before. I love taking the monorail into it. Seattle's Museum of Pop Culture, MoPop. Tell me about the party and what's your part in all of it?
Yeah, happy to. So yeah, so I've been on the board Rancho Obi-Wan since the beginning, and we haven't done a fundraiser event in a while. We've had the pandemic, and we haven't been able to get people together. And we came up with this idea of let's try really expanding and trying to do fundraisers in other cities, and we have we've met with the folks at Mopop before. I've known the Mopop folks for many years. I've loaned things periodically to them in their museum. In fact, I currently have some things from The Empire Strikes Back on display at Mopop. So when people come over for the fundraiser, they can go see some Star Wars things I have on loan to them. But and the several of the board members had visited Mopop last year and got a tour, and we went through their archives and talked to some of the folks at Mopop. And so we presented this idea. It's like, hey, we'd like to do a fundraiser at the Mopop Museum. It would allow us to go meet. We've done fundraisers in the past in Petaluma, where Rancho Obi-Wan is based, but this would let us, try it in a different city and also get, exposure to different fans in a different area, and with the idea that maybe in the future we can try to do these in other areas, and just we're very excited about it, and also the ability to just have it in a big venue, and it was just something that would just be a lot of fun to have it in a place like that. It's an awesome museum. It's one of my favorite museums in the world. Been there many times. And so we were all just very excited about doing it there, and it's also a museum that really gels well, obviously, with what Rancho Obi-Wan is about. Rancho Obi-Wan is really the Guinness World Record collection of Steve Sansweet, the ultimate like memorabilia museum of Star Wars items, and so it just was fitting to do it at Mopop.
Well, I'm looking forward to being there in person with you and a bunch of other fans. And I'm letting people know, I'll post it at the end of this interview. There's still tickets available. So if you want to fly in, which we actually have Star Wars fans flying in from across the country, but certainly if you're in the Seattle area next Saturday, October 5th, and you're a Star Wars fan like Gus and me, you don't want to miss this fundraiser. Any closing thoughts in our last few seconds, Gus?
I would say, there we have some surprises planned for the fundraiser. I
I
think that
know.
I think for people who are on the fence about going, I think you should go. I think it'll be one of those places that you'll want to have been there. I'll just say.
Yeah, this is
On the fence about buying a ticket, go buy a ticket now.
yeah. Gus and I both have our own kind of galactic NDA, so we can't talk about it. But I think you'll be very delightfully surprised if you show up. Thank you so much, Gus. We've been speaking with Gus Lopez, founder of Bobacabana, one of the world's great collections of Star Wars memorabilia. This is David Perry, and hope to see you next Saturday in Seattle at Mopop. Ahoy.